Coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere on the frigid, windswept prairies of Oklahoma and Buenos, California. I'm your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. This is a new Acceleration Radio right here on KGRA and also on our YouTube channel, L.A. Marzulli. Folks, you can see by the gentleman behind me, my battle buddy, and how many conferences we've been at? Like 50 or 60 conferences in the last 10 years. It's some ridiculous number like that. Russ Dizdar.
Hundreds.
Yeah, it's been a lot. But, you know, I want to get right into it because it's, you know, the hour is going to go by really quick, and we all know there's so much to talk about. First of all, do you feel free to discuss what happened at church? If you don't, then just tell me you don't. If you do, then let's go for it.
Sure, because I did it down in Georgia. I was just down in Georgia last weekend for that conference, and I shared it from the pulpit in the conference, so it's on live stream. So it's out there already, so yeah, no problem whatsoever. I'd be glad to share it.
Well, tell us about that.
Okay, what occurred? Sure. This is the time of year, you know, we know Halloween, all the rest of it. We know the commercialization of it. We know the commercialization is taking a deep, dark, ancient, satanic holiday and turning it into candy and goblins, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to church. We're looking for a good church. We want to be a part of a good church. Looking for a place of praise and power and, you know, all the stuff, you know. So we're sitting there. The assistant pastor is up. He's preaching. And he's talking about wine, how Jesus turned, you know, the water into wine, the miracle of that, the sign. But he began to turn it into, that means that it's good wine and that we can have margarita, like Taco Tuesday, we have margaritas. And a good example is that when there are people that want to connect, they can, a guy takes a cart out with alcohol and beer to the end of his driveway, and he offers it to the people. They come by and talk and drink, and they get back in their cars and they go for a ride. So I'm listening to this thinking, so you're giving alcohol to people driving cars. You're having Taco Tuesday Bible study with margaritas. You make the best margaritas. So this is all sounding really kind of weird. And then he starts promoting Halloween, how we should be having the best Halloween candy. We should be a witness to all the kids that come and trick or treat by giving them the best candy. And so he's kind of promoting, you know, trick or treat and all the rest of that. I know that I'm going to have to talk to the guy. I know I'm going to have to get up and go talk to this guy and say, where in the world are you? What's going on here? You should be doing exposure and warning. What we used to do, we had 7 days of revival and exposure and concerts, and we had massive outreach and great programs. But what's happening here is not only the silence, what I see, you know, being drug into the whole thing. So I'm sitting there as I'm listening to the guy, and all of a sudden my wife, Shelley, out of nowhere, yells out loud, excuse me, excuse me. She stops the entire service, and she literally confronts the young pastor and says, are you telling me, you know, that you're promoting Halloween? Shouldn't we be exposing this and warning our kids and telling them what kind of holiday it really is and doing something good? You know, she started going into all that. And it just stopped everything. And I was a little shocked. I know my wife and that she's willing to engage and talk to anybody, but this has never happened before. So literally, I'm proud of her. I'm grateful she did. We asked if we could talk to the young pastor. We asked for a meeting to be set up. No meeting has been set up. And so this all goes to the backdrop of me. I know what Halloween's all about. I know the horrific thing that it really is in the underground, and we're all about helping the victims. And yet, it's one, like, the culture doesn't know, the world doesn't know. It just commercializes and makes hundreds of millions of dollars, and it turns it into a big party. But the church should know. When the church is that dense and that uneducated and that spiritually undiscerning, to be drawn in not only to it, but then from a pulpit to promote it, I think we all need a little revival.
You know, bully for your wife and our friend, my wife Peggy and I, we love Shelley. She's just when my wife and Shelley gets together, we call them Thelma and Louise. I mean, anything can happen with the two of those together. It's a time bomb ready to go off. But, bully for Shelley because she stood up and called the guy accountable right there. This festival, which is now commercialized, and we have haunted houses and all this crazy blood and gore. I mean, what are we celebrating? Someone sent me a picture, Russ, of a church somewhere in India. Actually, Fritz Zimmerman, who sent me this picture of a church near where he lives in Indiana, and they've got this like 20-foot goblin like this out in front of a church, and it's just like you sit there and you go, these people are absolutely clueless. And I'm leading up to a question here. When we were in England this year filming, we went to Stonehenge and a lot of different ancient sites. And these sites were Druidic, and the Druids are still there. And in fact, the person that we spoke to, the first words out of her mouth were, "L.A., I'm a Druid." That's the first thing that was her opening statement. And I just said, well, that's great, no problem. Let's have lunch together. Let's do the interview. And what we did, we won her over. The next day she wrote me an email. It was a great time we had with you. It was just blah, 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 but I digress. So, we're going around and she knows these holidays. She knows exactly what they were called in the ancient Gaelic, Celtic, whatever. And she knows. She celebrates them. And she even said at one point, not on the record, but she said, we know these festivals by name and the church doesn't. You call them Christmas, you call them Halloween, things like that. But we have other names for them.
Right.
And she went, and I just kind of tapped into that. So here's the question. Why isn't this taught in the churches?
Well, I think it goes with the entire issue that we've seen in the conferences. You know how we've been in so many conferences the last decade, and 90% of the church doesn't know their authority. 20% of the church maybe knows how to put on the armor of God. So there's a massive, massive spiritual deficit in the body of Christ. There's a great spiritual quenching of the Spirit of God and the power of the church. And it should be the powerhouse of God. It should be the cutting edge. We should know all this. So the church is very undiscerning. So here's how I look at it. In the last 30-some years, and I've been full-time ministry 40 years,
wow.
But in the last 38 of those, satanic rituals and dealing with all that kind of stuff and deliverance. So as we see the rise of the satanic side, we see a decline of the church. We see the broader manifestation, more possessed people than ever, sleep paralysis, demonized stuff, cult groups, Satanism on the rise, satanic ritual abuse, the decadent immorality of pharmacon, the drug trade, sex trafficking, all that, massive numbers in the millions of millions, billion-dollar industries. So as that all climbs, the church seems to have become quiet and sedate and enculturated, drawn into it. And that is what the dark side wants, to cripple the church, doesn't want us to engage. It's contrary to the word of God that commands us, expose evil deeds of darkness, Ephesians 5. We're commanded to do this. We should have discernment to know the difference. So it does burn my britches to see the body of Christ. It's one thing to go silent and say, okay, we're not going to participate. That's one thing you can do. At least you know that it's a satanic holiday. I mean, like you said, ask the Druids, ask the Wiccans, ask the Satanists, ask any of them. They know this is their hour. L.A., some of the folks that we've engaged over the years, the Satanists, laugh at the church. They laugh that we are engaging their holiday, even the commercialization of it. So if you take razor blades and wrap it up with cotton candy and you bite into it, it's still going to cut you to pieces.
Yeah. We live in this very small little neighborhood here. We're kind of at the end of the cul-de-sac. There's only 2 families on the block that have young kids that want to go trick-or-treating. So they sent out an email blast to all the homes in our little neighborhood, whatever. And everybody's got at least an acre. Most of them are 2 acres or 3 acres type of thing. So the houses aren't, they're far and few between. There's about 20 houses in here, okay, at the most. And we're at the very end of the cul-de-sac. So they wrote us and everyone else and asked us, are you going to participate in Halloween? And so we just wrote them back and said, while we embrace Christmas and Resurrection Sunday and Thanksgiving and other holidays, we refrain from celebrating Halloween. And we just left it at that. We didn't get into a long diatribe as to why we don't celebrate it. But, you know, all the lights will go down here tomorrow night and make sure that no one comes to the house. So, you know, the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain would take human beings and burn them alive. And they would watch how the person died. And from that, they would be able to allegedly ascertain what the next, you know, year held for them. So this is what we're celebrating. And of course, it came over here. Well, I'm not going to, you know, get into that, but just talk about it. Talk about this ancient ritual and how it translates into the modernity.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got the Romans coming into Britain, and they're engaging the Druids, the Celts, and so you have a variety among the Celts, or a variety among the Druids. The Wiccans look at it. So if you look at Wiccans and many varieties of Wiccans, pagans, Druids, occultists, all Satanists. So historically, they look at it as their time. A time when the veil between the worlds grows thin, right. A time when the other side wants to contact. They also believe that the dead, the departed, your relatives can come back. Just they're allowed to come back under the Celtic god Dis, D-I-S. They're allowed to come back and engage for a little bit. So what you have also is the high level of necromancy. When we were in Salem years ago on Halloween Eve, we went up there to witness in Salem where all the witches and Lori Cabot and all of them are. We were trying to hunt Lori Cabot. We couldn't get a hold of her. We found out she was at a Moose's Lodge. They had it packed out. They were going to do summoning the dead, reading. They were going to do readings of the dead. We even actually went there. One of our guys went to the door and pounded on the door to try to get in. They wouldn't let us in. So you got necromancy going on. But here's the issue. Even among the commercialization, where you're kind of dumbing down vampires, blood, skeletons, death, you know, it's a real sense of the Day of the Dead. It's a real sense of, historically alone, it is all about their holiday and their gods. The Celts had, I think, 400 different gods. Their specific god of the dead was involved in this, and so it was a celebration. And part of the issue of the sacrificial side of it, which the Romans didn't want to do at first, they did other slaughtering of people. It was all about appeasing the gods and beginning the new year and seeking favor, very similar to Old Testament stuff. So whether you look back and see some of the gods they refer to remind you of some of the gods of the Old Testament, and then move forward. And so you got, in all of Europe, you got varieties of how they've tried to dumb down Halloween, make it a little more palatable. United States, of course. So on the one hand, the commercialization makes a lot of money. So you got hundreds of millions of dollars being made, and all the candy and costume and hedonistic fun. When I was a kid, I was Zorro.
Out of the night.
I should have never told you that, but I was Zorro as a kid.
That's a good one.
So the truth is, a lot of people, they're going to just see it as funny and fun because the cultural cleansing of a ancient bloody ritual time and dark side thing, their day. See, they know this, as you said, they know it's their day. Any Satanist knows this. Any pagan, Wiccan, they know this. And the underground satanic ritual abuse, as you know, I've worked with victims for over 38 years. They know this date very well. Look on the satanic ritual abuse calendar. What does it say? It's a day for pumpkins and apples and grandma coming to see you with pumpkin pie, right?
Wrong.
It is blood sacrifice, sexual and blood sacrifice of using boys or girls between 7 and 17. All of them know this. Anywhere in the world where satanic ritual abuse is going on, it's very much like Ezekiel chapter 8, hidden, underground, supernaturally. We got to understand that physically they hide themselves, obviously, like mafia and drug lords. But there's a supernatural barrier that they even have rituals to bring demonic power to guard them. That's why it's hard to investigate. I've been doing a series last week and just tonight even on investigating occult satanic crimes. And this is one of the nights. Tomorrow night, LA, I'll be out with team members. We'll be engaging areas that we know satanic crimes have occurred, victims are at. We'll be deep into the woods in one area, and we'll see what we're going to discover. But we also know it's going to be a high-level prayer time. So think in terms of all across America, satanic rituals in the context of victims. They are going to there's going to be rituals in every single state, in every single city in the United States tonight in preparatory, and big time tomorrow, and November 1st to the 4th with satanic revels and demon revels. So regardless of what the commercialization is, look below the table, and you're going to see blood and guts, tens of thousands upon thousands of victims, and they'll all tell you the same story. And the Satanists will tell you the same story. It's their day, they're conjuring, they're summoning, with a weakened, spiritually undiscerning, powerless church that is subnormal. They're able to get away with a lot.
So let me ask you this. If a church was, if you could, snap the church into, splash cold water on the church, as it were, what should the church be doing on a day like this? Give us like a view of what that would look like.
Sure, and I think a church that's gathering, week to week, and they're praying, and there's intercession, there's worship, spiritual gifts, and God's presence. So the church could be the most supernatural place on the planet. So when we gather together as a body, and God is there, and we open up all the doors and open up all of our hearts and utilize all that God has given us, truly the church should be the most supernatural, incredible place where people can be drawn for saving, healing, delivering, and help, and engaging God, the joy of the Lord. So it should be a powerful church anyway. But from that powerful church during satanic ritual nights and dark ritual times, here's what we did. I would scope out all of October, and I would have 31 days, a prayer agenda for 31 days. So all the people had in advance. They'd be praying all the way through October. We used to call it a blaze for God. And we would have them be, on a certain thing where they're studying and praying and so forth. We would have we'd have outreach teams going out all week, every single weekend, evangelizing. Then when it came closer to Halloween Eve, we would have 7 nights of things. We would have a night where we would expose what the real meaning, the satanic holiday really is. We would talk about the signs and the symbols and what really goes on. We would talk about how the commercialization waters it down. So we're like Romans 12, we're not to be conformed to the patterns of the world. So there's the world, the flesh, and the devil. So we're not to be conformed to that. We're believers. We're not to be enculturated and ruled by the world around us. We're in a sense independent. We're under the lordship of Jesus. So what we would do is building, like members of our church, and many times we did this with 2 or 3, sometimes up to 15 other churches. We'd join together, do all of this.
Wow.
Then we'd have outdoor evangelism, concerts, movies, food, outdoor baptisms. We made a major celebration that was bigger than anything else we could find. We did something so big and had people got saved left and right. People brought people that got delivered. One Sunday morning, I talked about, this was another one of the holidays, but one Sunday morning on Resurrection Sunday that we turned around, we did the same thing. I was telling you about how 40 people got saved. On Sunday morning alone, I baptized 27 people that morning.
Wow.
So whether that holiday or this one here, I would say to the church, number one, don't be seduced and be drawn into it, demonstrating and evidencing kind of Laodicea and being sucked into it. That's an embarrassment. That really is an embarrassment to the body. It's not what we are. Secondly, when we pull away from it and say, okay, we're not going to do, we're not participating in this because we know what it really is. But I don't want to go silent. I mean, we have that happen here too. We're not going to have the lights are off. People aren't going to come to the door. But what can we do as far as this big outreach and education and sharing with people and reaching people and so we use it always in that sense. Make an evangelistic thrust, concerts, Christian concerts and movies and outreach and evangelism and prayer and seeing the power of God. We've seen Wiccans and Satanists get saved. We've seen all kinds of people get saved. And that's what we are as the body of Christ in this culture, anywhere in the world. We must express the kingdom of God and triumph over this.
So in other words, instead of laying down and just accepting this thing and handing out a bunch of candy and dressing your kid up as John the Baptist or something and having them go out, which to me is like that's I just can't go there. I mean, because of the roots of this thing. Yeah. We're at a hard break here at the 20 and 40 minute. I just want to talk about Jingos real quick. It's just amazing how you got to go from one thing to the other. But folks, www.buyjingles.com. This stuff, I can see Rusty's cracking up. This stuff works. Let me tell you a personal testimony.
It does work.
Oh, it's amazing. So we have. Do you have a Jingos testimony? Did you try Jingos at your house?
I have it here at the house. Truly, I mean, not that this was planned, but I do have it. We do use it, and it does work. Okay, so yes.
There you go.
Very good.
That's a testimony from Russ Dizdar, folks. www.buyjingos.com. Folks, this stuff really does work. And here's just something real quick. I have a barbecue. Okay, it's Traeger. And this thing, because of all the smoke and the grease and the grime and the barbecue sauce, and I have a tray out front in front of the Traeger, part of a Traeger. So I put the stuff on it and, spare ribs, the barbecue sauce is leaking and it all gets heated up. Anyway, to cut to the chase, I sprayed a bunch of Jingos on this stuff and wiped it clean. I was just totally amazed. So once again, Jingos to the rescue. www.buyjingles.com. Keep it right here on KGRA and also on our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
Hi, Matt Ray here with America's First News, and I have a question for you. What do we all have in common, regardless of our age or profession? The busy, the elderly, students, doesn't matter. What do we all have in common? Stress, right? Stress causes anxiety in our lives, and we are susceptible to memory issues from time to time too, so why not guard against both? Guard against the effects of chronic stress and improve your memory with one supplement, Calm and Clever. Ingredients help enhance memory and retain new information, while other ingredients reduce stress by maintaining healthy levels of the stress hormone cortisol. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Sharpen your mind and feel calm and centered. Try Calm and Clever. Go to calmandclever.com. Enter the promo code RADIO for $5 off. Again, calmandclever.com. Enter the promo code RADIO for $5 off.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person, you. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing, we have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
By Jingos, it's amazingly fresh and clean out here in beautiful New Zealand. G'day America, I'm Tarby, and I want to tell you about my new ultimate stain and odour remover, Jingos. My Jingos gunk gobblers will tackle stubborn organic stains and eliminate nasty stinking odours at the same time. Jingos effectively removes those little accidents like wine, coffee, dirt, blood, grass, even pet stains, and odours like fish, garlic, even skunk. Jingos is environmentally friendly, safe for use on fabrics, carpet, upholstery, and it works great as a laundry pre-soak on the worst pet or people accidents. Come on, America, what are you waiting for? Just go online and order your Jingos for $12.95 and get a 4-ounce travel pack free. Crikey, pay $19.95 and I'll double your order. That's 2 large Jingos and 2 travel packs for just $19.95. Blasted seagulls, where's my Jingos?
Find the podcast on iTunes, iHeart, and Spotify. KGRARadio.com.
Thanks for keeping it right here on Acceleration Radio on KGRA and, of course, my YouTube channel, L.A. Marzulli. Before I bring Russ back on, I just want to tell you that I got a little headline from YouTube. They're going to go in and take people who have subscribed that aren't looking at the channel anymore. They're going to redo my numbers for me to make sure that it gets lower than 108,000. So if you're watching this, thank you so much for subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. We are censored on YouTube. We can't monetize. We are censored on Facebook. Basically, all sorts of media. They juggle the numbers. It's amazing. And it's time to stand up and push back against the prevailing paradigm, the New World Order, the George Soros mindset, the idea of socialism, which we know has never worked, but I digress. But let's bring Russ back in because, time is short here. Russ, when I was a kid, we had haunted houses at amusement parks. And, you sit in like a little chair thing or whatever, and you'd ride this thing, and something would pop out and go, ooh, like that. And, we'd all laugh. And it was like, but now you've got haunted houses where they're, totally, for lack of a better word, they are overtly demonic. They are in your face. They are evil. I can't imagine. I can't even look at them sometimes when I drive by, and they've got some guy standing out there with a severed head and an axe or something. It's just unbelievable. Or, the Grim Reaper, there's just blood everywhere. What's going on with that, Russ? What's going on with that? Why the rise of this?
Well, I think again, it becomes we see everybody being desensitized over the years, whether the sexual morality issue, the gender issues, and then the satanic dark side stuff. So there's a nervousness among the culture. They laugh about these scary things, and Freddy, and cutting their heads off, and Night of the Living Dead, and Halloween, all the things that are out there, the clown ones, all those kind of things that are out there. So I went through the same thing as a kid. We sat in a little cart, you drive through the spook house, and then later on in teenage years, you go to the big, like all around us right now are the big Halloween places.
Right.
Number one, they make tens of thousands of dollars based on that. So now you have the psycho slaughterers, murderers, guts coming out of people. You go to rooms where they're cutting heads off. And so you have a lot of stuff that is very scary. And then there's occult themes, even satanic themes in some of them. Again, as a believer, do I just simply go into the culture and embrace the culture and do what they do? Is that are we really that dumbed down that we have to do and become a part of all of that? I believe it grieves the Spirit of God. It doesn't have anything to do with the kingdom. I believe it caters to that side. Those behind the scenes love it when we believers are dumbed down like that. So when you deal with the people that really know what the holiday is all about, their holiday, they claim it as theirs, they know it is theirs, historically another way. Israel wasn't supposed to go up to the groves, into the underground places. They were supposed to go up there in the Old Testament during the ritual times and holiday, the dates that Moloch and Baal and the rest. So it's really no different. As a believer, and leadership is a big key in this too. You've seen churches used for scary nights and trick-or-trunk nights. And again, it doesn't show the culture anything other than a conceding. You've conceded the culture over. You've given over. And you say, well, it's just candy. It's just
no, it's not.
It's just who doesn't like candy?
Yeah, right.
Who doesn't like caramel apples and all that kind of stuff? So and again, we have to realize something. The lost world around us, the culture we live in, to them it's fun, it's money making, it's parties, it's a release. That's what they do. So let me ask you, who are we under, the lordship of Jesus or the world that we live in? Again, Romans 12, we're not to be conformed to the patterns of the world. Once we understand that and then begin to really look at what is this date all about? What is this date all about? Well, then the church can become active in the sense of going after, when we're really trained, we can learn how we can respond in massive prayer, massive evangelism, be on the streets. We've got 4 big foes in the United States that we need as a church to be very actively against. Abortion is one of those.
Bingo.
There's no question that the dark side loves that. Abortion is one of those. The other one would be human trafficking that we know is out there. Another one is the drug trade and the pharmacon stuff that's going on, and that's huge. We're seeing millions of lives lost in those 3 areas alone. And then we come to the below. This has been beneath the surface, the satanic ritual abuse. The sheer numbers shock everybody, but this goes back to the secular side sharing how millions of people in the 1994, 2004, secular estimates, anywhere from 2 million to 10 million, victims. I have dealt with victims for almost 40 years direct. I'm telling you again, they know that in every city, this is by design. This is what the church needs to know. By design, the underground is doing rituals tonight. They'll do them on All Hallows Eve, Samhain. They're going to summon demons. They're going to conjure spirits. They're going to do blood sacrifice. They're going to do sex sacrifice. They're growing in numbers everywhere. They're going to conjure spirits. They're going to obtain spirits for themselves, for their coven members. They're going to send spirits to cover their actions, to protect them. They're going to send they're going to send demons against churches, and they're going to release spirits into the air over cities. They're doing their job, LA. They know what they're doing. They're doing their job to advance the satanic cause. This is why we see this massive growth in it. We see this massive. Look at the bloody culture. Look at the moral decadence. Look at the people don't even know what gender they are. The confusion. This all has a spiritual backdrop. Satan cannot advance unless he uses the tools to bring the demons that manifest their powers.
It just seems like we're in a window of time where, and you already talked about, the church is anemic. It's not engaged. The fact that this pastor would talk about giving the best candy at Halloween shows that, with all due respect to the man, he's utterly clueless of what is going on. And now what we see in the culture, when the Joker movie came out, and I watched the trailer because it's part of what I do, I have to do it. I have to watch. I didn't go to the movie. There's no way I'm going to go to the movie. But I watched the trailer, and I realized, and I wrote a blog on it, we are celebrating the utter depravity, the nadir of humankind. The worst possible thing becomes celebratory, and as in our movie, the Joker grossed more money than any other our movie ever. So you look at all this, and all these crazy haunted houses things, and some of these things. There's one that was on the Drudge Report last week that talked about, in order to go into this thing, you've got to sign a 40-page declaration. You've got to have a letter from your physician saying that you're physically fit to go in. Apparently, this thing is so terrifying that no one's ever completed it. No one's ever completed it. It's that terrifying. And they showed a picture of some guy screaming and some guy next to him, and there's just blood everywhere. This is what we're celebrating. This is now normal. Do people realize what they're seeing, what they're putting into their spirit? And you know what, folks? Whatever we take in, it stays there. I saw The Shining, little sidebar here. I was not a Christian. It was about a year or two before I became a Christian. I was probably 28 or 29 years old. I became a Christian in 1980. So whenever that movie came out, I was not born again yet. I remember sitting in The Shining, and this thing was so crafted, so evil, so diabolical, that parts of that movie flash every now and then. That it's satanic, with all due respect to Stephen King, in my opinion, that movie is satanically anointed, just like the It movies, just like the Joker movies. They're satanically anointed, and they draw the people in. And frankly, we're using our youth to this type of perversion, because it's, everything is good is now evil and evil is now good, just like the Bible tells us. But here's what I want you to address. How did this thing come over here? What are the roots? Where did it? I mean, I know, but I want you to tell the audience how it got over here in America.
Well, I mean, the carriers. I mean, we can go way back, and we could talk about deeper roots when we talk about the migration of the Nephilim from Britannica. We could talk about that whole issue of coming down. Where I live in Ohio, Newark, Ohio, we're going to do a conference together. Maybe the actual last Nephilim Mounds conference ever. We're going to do one again here in 2020.
In March or April, folks.
As we get ready to do another one of these, and as we do this next one, you got some really deep roots when it comes to the Nephilim, which is, it's got to be like barring Satan walking materialized in front of you, that's some of the closest you're going to get to the other side. So you've got the Nephilim issue, you've got the history of all of this, but when you come from England, Scotland, and Europe, and all that which has started coming here, even Ireland, they brought this with them. Just like Haitians brought in voodoo and hoodoo, just like Mexicans, worshippers of the Saint of Death. 12 million in Mexico, 164,000 deaths in 10 years. The drug lords use priests and priestesses to summon demons through blood sacrifice to bless the drug trade. Does anybody do a basic cursory study of the Saint of Death in Mexico when you got 12 to 15 million worshiping an ancient Mesoamerican goddess that requires and demands blood sacrifice? And you've got the Aztecs and the Mayans connected to the Nephilim. So what you have is, again, the layering, the little left-hand path is incremental, little by little dumbing people down and drawing them over. So let's ask the questions. They just simply bring it over. Those who are practitioners bring it over. Then those that become Wiccan, depending on the variety, those that become pagan, druid, occultists, Crowlinians, New Agers will practice even just channeling, trying to engage the spirits, because it's a well-known dark side holiday that the demons themselves have prescribed to the worshipers, to the ones that are going to embrace. They're the ones knocking on the door. They're the ones drawing people in. They're the ones that claim that date. This was never a God-given festival or God-given date. This is their date, and it was brought over. The underground continues to use it like it always has. Dark rituals, dark powers, necromancy, everything dark to bring contact with the spirits and then to conjure. Now, the problem is the underground has become it's just by sheer numbers massively larger. Satan, biblically speaking, Satan has an agenda, and that agenda is growing. And this date being a satanic holiday, a satanic day, a ritual day, it's what they do. It's what they want. So, but on the surface of things, just like the Bible, Ella, you remember the word metaskizmazo?
Right. Of course.
That word, Satan, like we read in 2 Corinthians, Satan is able to masquerade, morph his presence, turn his entire presence around. He's able to morph his presence and be like an angel of light without changing who he really is. And it's tactical. The purpose is deception. So when a culture is dumbed down and celebrating a satanic historically blood, human sacrificial holiday of the dark side, it's dumbed down with lighter level stuff. Let me tell you something, and you could ask Wiccan, you could ask any Satanist, this is a good time for them to recruit people.
Sure,
this is a good time for them to invite people to even lesser rituals that eventually bring them down to the darker ones. So it's just simply migrated over, became a part of everything, just like we look at occultism, New World Order stuff. Look on the back of your dollar bill. How did that glowing, all-seeing eye in the pyramid, how did they get on the back of our dollar bill? What does that mean? Does any of this have, as a believer in Jesus, does any of this have anything to do with glorifying God and doing his kingdom? Of course not. So I think for the believer, we need to be like Daniel was in his day. They wanted to assimilate Daniel. They wanted to give him certain foods, clothing, change his name, put him into participation with everything in Babylon. They wanted to kind of Babylonize him, turn him into one of them, but he never got turned into one. He was reserved, and he actually fixed his heart, resolved that he would not be assimilated. So these outward celebrations, though the outward seems dumbed down, it's all about assimilation. It's all about dumbing down. It's all about desensitizing the culture that we live in. And for years, we went up to Kent State. Kent State is very close. Thousands and thousands of people came out, and all the costumes. Now, the costumes include stripper, almost porn-level things on the streets. Now, we're on the streets witnessing. We had a local area church that had a Christian concert and food, and we can take people in there. So, again, either you, as a believer, you dumb down, submit to the dark culture, grieve the Spirit of God, embarrass your own witness by giving into all of that, or you recognize what it is, you step away. We're commanded to expose evil deeds of darkness, right, and then set out a massive agenda, evangelize, share Christ, do ministry. There's so many people in the context of this, as always, that need help. It's a good time to do targeted evangelism, targeted prayer for great revival. The revivals are not over. Thousands and tens of thousands of people are going to get saved. Great work of God needs to be done. We're not going to sit silent. We're going to be massively active here in these days that we're living in.
And we need to. The church, I truly believe, is what's holding back. I mean, without the church, the entire planet would just give itself over to utter depravity. And frankly, that's where it's headed. But I want to take another break here. It's our last break. For those of you who don't know, I lived 45 years in California, and my wife and I really miss California greatly. And we own the property there. It's 2 acres in the undisclosed location in the Santa Monica Mountains, and we are in the process of rebuilding, but we're not going to build in the normal way. What I mean by that, we're not going to build with wood and a typical wood frame house. You know why? Because our house burned. Now, we bought the house that way. It was like but when it burned, it was like a 70-year-old home. It was built in 1950. So the thing was a wood structure, very dry, and of course, when that fire came, it didn't stand a chance. Here's the deal. There's a new system. It's called Gigacrete. And I'm going to show you a little clip right after I'm done the pitch here. And by the way, they're not sponsoring me at all. I just love the product so much that if you're considering building a house, Gigacrete is amazing. It's a steel construction, and in between each column of steel stud essentially, is solid foam. And the foam is cored out for plumbing and electrical. The thing can go up like in a week. You can have your house. It can take a 1700 degree fire for 4 hours before the thing fails. It is absolutely incredible. And the cost, I'm going to say, is about a third of normal construction because your labor cost goes way down. www.gigacrete.com, gigacrete.com. Keep it right here, folks. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
We're here in front of the components that we use for our Giga house. These are expanded polystyrene sheets that have been made into panels and shapes. And the shapes, basically 3 shapes. There's a flat panel. There's a 90-degree panel, which we call a corner. And you'll notice in here is predetermined, pre-engineered locations for the steel studs that drop in. So the purpose of that is to speed up the construction process. And on this piece, this is a T. So this is an intersecting wall. And then I'm going to turn around and show you where these actually fit into a project. Here we've got a flat panel. The corner here is actually a T, that's the intersecting wall. And then on the other side of that would be the corner of a house or the corner of the building. And then A slice through the panel shows how the steel studs, which are conventional steel-framed components, slide into the panel. So the purpose for the steel studs are actually the structural components, and this follows conventional steel-framed engineering. Steel framing has been around for decades. What we've actually done to make things a little bit different is we're predetermining in the thickness of the expanded polystyrene panel exactly where the stud goes. So we conform to the typical 24-inch on-center placement of studs, only our connectors, which are actually two studs connected to each other, become a 4x4. The code calls for one 2x4 every 24 inches. In this case, we're using a double stud, so now that 2x4 becomes a 4x4. So now we have a 4x4, then a 2x4, and then another 4x4, two more studs than called for in the code. So we're getting a lot of extra strength from that. The speed to construct obviously is increased hugely because normally you measure individual studs one at a time. You have to make sure they're nice and square. Over here you can see here's the intersecting wall. There's a sliding connector that goes in here, a 4x4. There's the 2x4 at 24 inch on center. And then here's another 4x4 slide down connector that locks this to the next panel. You can also see here the thickness of the panel, the fact that the steel is embedded in the middle of the panel, so we've got a thermal break from the temperature being outside here, getting to the steel and transmitting through. And then here you'll see there's conduits. There's actually one here at the top, one here in the middle, this would be for light switches, and then one down here for wall outlets that would be located above or below this line. At any point you can cut into the foam to access this conduit, which runs all the way through the panel, including the corner components.
Thanks for holding it right here, folks, on Acceleration Radio on KGRA and also my YouTube channel, LA Marzulli. Click the little subscriber button. YouTube is going to scrub my channel and make sure everybody's legit there. So the numbers are going to go down. But that's how the algorithm in the game is played. Russ, we're talking about Halloween, and we're also talking about, you mentioned earlier, the sacrifices which are going to happen, the satanic ritual sacrifices, which will happen in pretty much every major city, and also I would say small towns throughout America. I mean, there are covens everywhere at this point. It's not like it was 50 years ago when what's a coven? Now they're everywhere. And we see more and more young people are leaving the churches and going to the coven because stuff happens at the coven, nothing happens at the church. So why do they want to sit there and go through the same thing every Sunday when they can go and, have an encounter type of thing? Thousands of people, thousands of children go missing every year. In fact, it's tens of thousands of children go missing every year. They're never found. Law enforcement, for the most part, keeps it way under the radar, as does the media. Speak to that.
Well, sure, they have to. And I mean, missing children, again, once you start looking at the numbers, that astounds you as far as missing children, missing individuals. Actually, on the satanic ritual abuse calendar, between October 13th up through the 25th or so, you have abduction, where kids and others would be abducted and be held until and prepared for rituals coming up on the 30th, 31st, all the way up to November the 4th. So it doesn't stop tomorrow night. It goes all the way to November 4th. So once again, it's one thing if 2 or 3 or 10 or 12 people told you this. It's another thing that people from every single state, every single city in the United States over the last 30 years have come forward to say they were part of satanic rituals.
Wow.
They know the languages, they know how to draw, they know the smell of blood, they know the presence of the dark side. You have thousands and thousands telling you this. Just like Bohemian Grove, which is a bigger high grove, it's like a high place in the groves. You have most of it's underground. Most of it's they're going to be smaller, as far as numbers of individuals. But again, it's absolutely real. The Bible shows how real it is. The Scripture is very clear about us knowing our authority and how to walk powerfully. And as far as the sheer numbers, it doesn't take away from anything we have in Christ. We far exceed anything they have. The problem is the dumbing down of the church, whether by leadership whether by neglect. Look at Sardis. Once alive, it became dead.
Right.
So we need to look at the biblical factors. What is a dead church? What is an alive church? Is the power and presence of God there? Is the work of the Spirit of God done? Do people get saved, healed, delivered? Can you get healed there? Will anybody pray for you to be healed? Will you see God at work interacting as we gather together? So not only should the church be the most supernatural gathering of God, of the people of God in his very presence, but every one of us as believers, we are the most supernaturally empowered, enhanced individuals on the planet. Christ lives in us. The Spirit of God is in us. God is operative. There's signs and wonders and prayer miracles that can be happening. So when we advance the cause of Christ biblically, just like the book of Acts, then we see massive stuff. Let me tell you this, LA, when we've engaged undergrounders, they hate that anybody targets them. They hate that anybody finds out they're doing rituals in their area. They don't want you to know because they don't want you to stop them, and they surely don't want Christians to start targeting them in prayer because they know that it will disrupt their rituals. They know that it will bring, our prayers targeting those rituals, engaging this stuff, absolutely brings a halt. It disrupts them. They know this. They don't like this. They get angry.
Wow. It's this has been going on for thousands of years. What I mean by this is the dark side has an agenda. Satan, the dragon, the prince of the power of the air, has an agenda. And of course, it's always to be worshipped. And he gives power and authority and gifting and money and fame and everything else to those who will follow him. And the scriptural reference of that, of course, is the Lord. When Jesus is taken and shown in a twinkling of an eye, in a moment of time, all the kingdoms of the earth, past, present, future, it's all yours. It's all yours if you just fall down and worship me. So I would, I'm not going to name any names, but I think a lot of Hollywood people and a lot of people in the music industry have given themselves over. And this is why, they're mediocre at best, and all of a sudden they rise to the top. And look at what they're putting forth. Look at what happens at our Super Bowl things with Madonna when she comes in. In my opinion, the last time she was there, it can only be described as a satanic ritual right out of Egypt. This thing is orchestrated and it's dialed in. And millions of people, what people don't understand, millions of people are just taking it in to their home. It's now in your home. Oh, I'm not really participating in that. Oh, yes, you are. You're there via the television set. So I want to talk about this. When people watch movies like It and Halloween and The Shining and all this stuff in their home, they're literally taking stuff in, and then they wonder why stuff starts happening in the house. Speak to that.
Well, sure. Again, that's why being uneducated about all of this, Ouija boards, things, games, Dungeons, Dragons, you bring all this in your own home, let alone participate. There's no question you are giving that side room. We are commanded not to give a doorway, a foothold to the enemy. We're told this in Ephesians 4. So when you open the door to occult practices, occult games, occult celebrations, we as Christians, are we really going to celebrate a high blood ritual day? We're going to turn that into a fun day for us? Or is that a time that we stand opposed to it, against that, and to advance the cause of Christ? So there's no question that you open doors. That's like looking in your house right now. Do you have any kind of occult games like Ouija board, whatever? You know what a Ouija board is? It's a talking board.
Exactly.
It's designed by the demonic side. It's like giving somebody your phone number. I give you my phone number. You know how to dial it and call me. A demon gives a ritual, gives a name, gives a prescription of a kind of ritual, has a person inspired to write down how to do it, takes a talking board. The talking board was inspired by the demonic realm to use to dial into them, to use as a way of getting to them. So, and then look at some of the movies. I'll take one of the movies, Spellbinder. I don't want to even say the movie because some people might want to go out, but in the 90s, we tried to go after all of them, like I say, researching, engaging, to expose. Some of it's just Hollywood, blood and guts, goofy stuff, not to be worth even, just making money, dumb stuff. Some of it's absolutely real. Some of it's absolutely real, let alone the effects that, like The Exorcist, some people were so obsessed, they went 20 and 30 times to see it.
Wow.
They're so obsessed by a demon named Pazuzu. And Pazuzu was the name of the guy lately. You could go look up the crime. The guy that had his face all tattooed, he opened the door to all this stuff as younger.
Yeah, right.
He got into it.
Right.
He killed individuals, sacrificed them, and he named himself Pazuzu, which was the name of the demon in the Exorcist movie, which is the actual name of a historic, ancient demon god. And he just simply, so when you call on the names, like we call on the name of the Lord Jesus
Amen.
For salvation,
Thank you, Lord.
prayers and so forth, they call on real demons for the real demons to show up too.
And this is what's chilling,
It really
Russ.
works
I
on
mean,
that side.
I just thank God for your ministry, and I remember seeing you for the very first time in Ohio. I think it's 10 years ago at least. And, you presented and I presented, and we became battle buddies, as it were. And since then, lots of conferences.
Absolutely.
But, you're one of the few people that want to talk about this and what I do with the whole UFO and the Nephilim thing. And a lot of people in the church look at us as like, we're really out there. And it's like, whoa, they're always talking about the dark side. Well, folks, the dark side is all around us. In case you haven't noticed, just look at in case you haven't noticed, look at the films, look at the haunted houses, look at the nonsense in your own neighborhood, look at your own church promulgating Halloween, with biblical characters. It's just such nonsense. Russ, I've got about 2 minutes here. Wrap it up. Tell us how to go to your site. You've got all sorts of material on your site that's free. People can download it and begin to plunge into this head first and understand that this is a real battle that we're in. Tell us.
Yeah. And let me give you also 2 Corinthians chapter 6, where an Old Testament scripture is applied to believers about, God walking and being a part of us. What does the temple of God have to do with Belial? What does the, light have to do with darkness? You can't mix the two. Touch no unclean thing, it says. Come out and be separate, it says. So I'd ask every believer to look at 2 Corinthians chapter 6. On the website shatterthedarkness.net. Shatterthedarkness.net. Scroll down a little bit. Hundreds of hours of training, spiritual warfare, hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, all of it absolutely free for you. And just grow in the Lord. Grow and take your stand in an hour in which so much more darkness is coming, and radical blood and guts underground stuff's going on, and victims are waiting for us, the real believers, to come and help them get out of this. And we have a great work to do, and God will be in it. It'll be a triumphant ministry. We can't sit back and we can't participate. We must move forward with the hand of God.
Amen. Thanks so much for coming on the record, Russ. Really appreciate it. Folks, Russ and I and Chief Joseph Riverwind and perhaps one of our special guests will be in Newark, Ohio at another Nephilim Mounds conference. Now, we said several years ago this was the last one. Okay, new information has come out. I've created 3 films on this subject, and we might actually be showing one of the films there. We haven't really talked about the schedule yet, but look on my blog and also Russ's. Tickets will go on sale fairly quickly once we nail down the date. We're looking at March or April. Nephilim Mounds. You can go to shatterthedarkness.net or lamarzulli.net and look under speaking schedules, and it will be there. Russ, thanks so much for coming on the record. Stay safe, and let's talk again soon.
Absolutely.
Folks, you've been listening to Acceleration Radio. Remember, I'll see you on the air or in the air. Thanks so much for watching.